All right, we're recording. So, trade day recap for Monday, December 1st. I'm really excited for what happened today, even though the P&L, wherever it is, shows basically break even on the day. I'm super excited, and I want to tell you why. So that way it makes more sense to you, obviously. Now, real quick, just a reminder, obviously it's the Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend, and if you're needing any funding for trading with other people's money so you don't have to risk your own, Apex, the firm that I use, is having a really sweet deal on some of their accounts. Their 100K is like $60 after the activation fee, so it's $60 to get 100,000 in funding. And then everyone else obviously is having Black Friday sales. If you need TradingView, I just got TradingView because it's such a good deal. It's half off right now, so I resubscribed for the next year using their Black Friday sale. And then TradeZella for journaling and backtesting, they're having a sale too. All the links are down below. If you would, use my links, it would help support my tiny little channel here. So that said, getting into why I'm excited for today, and maybe as opposed to even starting on the charts here, I'll show you what I did this weekend. And I know these spreadsheets make no sense to anyone else but me, and that's fine. But basically what I did is I went through all of my trades since the summer, basically, and on my funded account here. And I looked at every single trade, and basically I ended up breaking even on this account. But what I noticed is a lot of the trades ran a lot further than I would TP at. So, here's an example. Look at this price leg up here and how far it goes past wherever I might TP, which would be probably somewhere in the swing. Look at this price leg, keeps going. So I went in and looked at all of my trades, and I examined the winners and the losers. And basically what I said is if I TP at 3R, so if I risk 100 to make 300, in this case, let's just call it that for easy math, where would I be, if I held for longer? And I didn't know, because in part, if you go for a 1-to-1, you have a higher win rate. But you also have to have a super high win rate for that to be effective long term, because if you have 1-to-1 risk to profit and you have a 50% win rate, that's break even. And so you need to be reasonably above that, like in the 70%, before you can deal with losing streaks, etc. And so in my case, I've been trying to get my win rate up for the last few months, backtesting a ton, trying to improve my strategy, studying my losses, studying my wins, trying to find what a perfect setup looks like, and trying to improve my win rate. And it slowly has, because on this account, I had not on this spreadsheet, in the actual TradeZella data, I had a 42% win rate on this account. And here, after adjusting my TPs, my win rate went down, right? But something super interesting happened. So at a 42% win rate, and approximately I would take, it would be 1 to 1.4, basically is what I ended up with on average, so we could call it 1.5. I was about break even on the account and just not getting anywhere. But here, when I went back and I looked at all these trades and I said, if I TP at 3R, what happens? My win rate went down, my break-even rate went up a titch, but my win went up 26R. So basically, I made 26 times my risk. And if I risked $100 per trade, that would have been $2,600. If I risked what I'm supposed to at 230 something, 235 a trade, that would have been about $6,000 I would have been up on this account. And I think that's super interesting, because this isn't like looking at backtesting charts and in hindsight trading and saying, oh, I would have taken that. These are trades that I did take. So in the moment, I felt compelled, for all of the reasons that are hard to go back and look at, because you look at the 1 hour, the 15-minute time frame, the 4-hour time frame, NQ, ES, YM, you're taking all this information in, and I find it's hard to recreate it later on, because you don't know fully why. Maybe the midnight open was your key that day, and you're like, we are so far away from the midnight open, I'm targeting it. But when you come back to it, you miss that. So when we look at the trades that we did take, I feel like that's a very significant data point, because of all the confluences that we would have looked at to have taken the trade that we can't, in hindsight, find again. And so this just blew my mind. It basically said, if I just would have held for 3R, and so here's the criteria. I removed the tilt session that I had and basically gave myself one loss. If it was a wacky, hard to tell entry, I just assumed it was clean if it was there, because I've gotten a lot better and I do a lot cleaner entries now. And then I had a spell where I was breaking even on a lot of trades, and I didn't count those at break even. I counted those as if I wouldn't have been fearful and exited way too early at break even. Now, the other thing that I did is, so I noticed that price, when it ran, it ran. In other words, if I entered somewhere in here, price just runs. Whereas if it lollygagged around and came back against me, like, somewhere in here, I was typically going to get stopped out. So the other thing that I did is I said, okay, cool, I'm going 3R and I'm going break even at 1R. So when the price hit 1R, I would go break even. I was going to say something else, so I just kind of repeated myself. I'm not thinking too clearly at the moment, apparently. Anyways, I hope that makes sense. So that was kind of my new criteria, my new rules that I came up with after discovering what would have happened if I held for 3R. And I looked at this as other time periods too. And I looked at 3R to see, like, does it hold true in other time periods and other points in time when there's different volatility, and it did. So that was another confluence for me. And then obviously there's a balance, because you can't hold for 8R, 10R, because your win rate's going to be super low. So it's trying to find that sweet spot of, like, what R do you need, what R multiple do you need to hold for in order for your win rate to work. And I'd never thought about it like that. I never thought about looking, how do I get my current win rate to work? Because that's the hardest thing to change, Gosh, that comes with years of practice and years of time. And like, for example, my win rate on this account in real time was 42%. In my latest backtesting session, it's 44%, like slightly better. And, I've done so much work since then. So yeah, I'm super curious to look at this idea of using my target to balance out my win rate for profitability. Anyways, I think that was probably a super long-winded explanation. Sorry, hope that makes sense. But ultimately, that's why I'm really excited for today. So now, jumping into today, I was initially bearish on the day, more so. The 4-hour chart here, we were down at the 6 a.m. candle. We were down in here somewhere at market open. And just seeing how overextended price was below this fair value gap, right on this fair value gap. So I was expecting some kind of bearish delivery. What ended up happening is, here on the 1-hour chart, I noticed YM did a massive stop hunt, clearing out all this liquidity. I was expecting NQ to come down to this gap, clear out this liquidity, and then get bullish delivery. Well, YM did it. So once I saw that, it opened, I was immediately much more bullish, which was good. I was also noticing this seek and destroy. Here we were in between two 1-hour fair value gaps. One was like up here, and then one was like right down in here. And so I was somewhat expecting seek and destroy. I wasn't overly excited about taking a trade in this zone at all. So here would have been a short opportunity. I wasn't interested in the short, and obviously avoided a stop out. And then here, I was somewhat interested in this long after seeing what YM did down in here. But because price was in between the two PD arrays, I decided just to tape read it. And basically it would have been this, this inversion fair value gap right here. And that was a 3RW, which really made me excited. And in the live session, I was talking through this trade. And I was saying, I don't know, maybe if I would have been in it and I saw this kind of coming back, would I have closed? So I would have been at break even already. Would I have closed the trade and taken my 2R, my 2.5R, or whatever I thought I could have got? And I was talking back and forth with myself about, like, well, what are my rules in terms of that? And in the testing that I had done, it was either or. It hits my 3R TP, or it comes back to break even. I didn't sit there and, because I wouldn't judge it for accurately in the moment looking at trades I had taken. I can't do that. And so I decided, well, I guess the rule is it's either break even or 3R. And 3R is obviously, like, if there's a super higher time frame level, like right here, then I would go for slightly lower. But in this case, we had this previous day equilibrium right there that I was targeting. And so I felt okay about going for the 3R. And what ended up happening is while I was kind of mulling that over, even though I wasn't really in the trade, it hit my 3R target almost to the tick and then turned around. And for me, I felt that was like a confirmation from God to say like, bro, just hold on. You just need to hold on, you know? Because that's kind of the problem I'm having anyways, where I know price can turn around at swings. So I enter a trade and then I exit pretty much at the swing or something like that. And then price runs way far without me. So that was my tape read. I was super excited that I was right about that. And then you can see here my executions. Let me pull up this long. So basically what ended up happening here is price came back down into this fair value gap on the 15-minute. I was a little spooked out because YM was so bearish, but ES seemed to be holding along with NQ. Anyways, tapped into this 15-minute fair value gap over here. Where are we? Right here. And then you can see on this candle here how bearish YM was looking too. So kind of spooked me out a little bit, but we had all these reasons to go higher in my eye. And so I entered in this long and I learned something here. So it was an inversion fair value gap right here that I took, SMT, higher time frame levels, high probability targets. So it all looked A plus to me. This trade looked A plus. But what you'll notice is I got stopped at break even. And that's because what I had told myself was once my trade hits about 1R, which we can see my trade hit 1.54R, in the very next candle, I go break even. So at that point, I went break even and price kind of started consolidating, at which point I was okay with, like, if it's going to consolidate, it's probably off sides. But obviously it consolidated for, all of 10 minutes and then it ran and exceeded my 3R target. Where was that 3R? Almost 4R. And so here what I learned is if price hits my 1R break even point within the first couple of candles, I'm not going to go break even. Maybe I'll tuck my stop loss up a little bit kind of thing. But ultimately, I need to wait for, and what I realized after looking at my past trades is more so it was when price expanded away, kind of did some things, and then came back to the entry, that it typically would have been a loser anyways. And so given that price didn't really expand away from my entry, it sort of did, but not enough. I should have held out, and maybe it's like, if price expands, give price 4 candles or something, 4 or 5 candles to expand away and then go break even. But ultimately, here would have been a W. Now, that to me is exciting, and I know it's not money in the bank, but that's not where I'm at in my trading. In my trading, I'm trying to perfect the process. I used to be about getting the money in the bank, and I never could get anywhere, and I was always spinning my wheels. So, and ever since I've changed my focus to perfecting my process trading, I just feel so much less stress. I feel like my trading improved. I'm not upset about anything in here today. I didn't miss this and then FOMO in and then get stopped out, which is something that would have happened in the past. I'm super stoked that my theory that I came up with this weekend for how to improve my trading seems to be playing out. Here was another example. I shut it down somewhere in here because I just didn't see another trade happening in the next. So my rule is I'm supposed to trade until 12, which is right here. But after being right on 2 calls and not thinking I would see a third setup in the morning, I just walked away because it's not typical. Typically, I get 1 to 2 setups in a session, not 3. But this was a really nice looking trade too. And I wasn't around for it. It would have met my criteria. I could have ran it to these relative equal highs. And then here, this thing was probably more like 5R. So that's why I'm really excited. I think I've unlocked something. I'm trying not to get too excited because obviously you can create expectations. And when we create expectations in the market, that's when we create problems. Like if this trade would have given 2R and then I got stopped at break even, and then I get upset thinking 3R isn't going to work. Whatever we walk into the market thinking like and this is subtle, we have to pay attention to this, the expectations we have for the day. Do we expect to find a trade? Do we expect to win the trade? Do we expect to get an entry if we find the trade? Do we expect 3R to hit? Like whatever these expectations are, we expect our account to get to a certain balance after that day. Whatever it is, they make trading so much harder. And so I have a practice where I let those expectations go before I even get into the charts and start my pre-market analysis. One of my expectations for today was that I was excited to see if 3R would play out. But I also had to release the expectation that it might not today. But I was pleasantly surprised here. So I think that's long enough of a rant for a trade recap when I'm $2.88 in the green on this account. Basically break even. Anything under 50 bucks is break even to me. So yeah, that wraps it up. I'm excited to continue trading for the next couple weeks, working with the 3R profit targets and seeing how that improves my profitability while being completely detached. Like there's no attachment to like, this is gonna, I mean, I'm a human, so there is some excitement like this. Maybe this is the thing that really boosts my trading, but ultimately still detached to like, I don't know. Maybe this helps, maybe it doesn't, who knows? So yeah, I'm gonna stop this journal entry here. I think that's the bulk of what I had to share.